Thank you very much again for being here. So today we have this webinar, which is about social sustainability in European supply chains, commitment and open issues. So it's a very important title, and so I don't know if we managed to answer to all the questions related to this topic. Of course, it's a very hot topic at the moment in Europe, but the idea is to discuss about it and to see together what some companies are doing, what we have done in the project, in order to study, to analyze this problem, and to propose some solutions to European companies. So today we have 3 presentations from 3 colleagues participating to the project. So we have first a presentation from my colleague Andrea 𝘀𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹, where we report about multiple case study that we have done in the last months with some European companies. We have then a presentation from Aston University, the colleague 𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗋, that is putting the focus on one possible strategy to support the development of suppliers, so having in mind in particular lower tier suppliers, so second and third tier suppliers. We have then a presentation from the colleague Marcus from Fraunhofer IML, which goes more on the policy, let's say, development, and we go to see how social sustainability is faced from the political point of view, and what about corporate social sustainability. We have also 2 moments where we can open the discussion and be interactive together in order to hear your opinion about these topics. Just 2 slides related to our project. So 𝘀𝑠hape is a project financed by the European Commission, where we have 4 main objectives. The first one was to study the trends, which are the trends that are influencing supply chains, and then upon these trends, how they are impacting and how to develop new supply chain models in order to face these trends and to face the risks that are coming to the companies in order to from these trends that can be political, economic, environmental. So there can be many different exogenous factors that are influencing the way companies are organizing business in networks. The third objective is related to developing innovative tools to monitor and assess the sustainability, with particular focus on social sustainability. And the fourth objective is related to developing new scenarios, policy scenarios, in order to help policymakers to define ways to support companies in managing their networks, having in mind the social sustainability. So the project is composed of 9 partners all over Europe, plus we have 2 partnerships, 1 partnership in Italy and 1 in UK. Here you have the name of all the partners, and we are at the middle of our project, let's say. We are almost at the 2nd year, and so this is a part of the work that we are doing. So I think we can go straight away to the first presentation. So I give the floor to my colleague Andrea. Please, Andrea, I think you share the screen, correct?
Yes. going to share the screen. Okay, so are you able to see my presentation now?
Yes,
I think.
yes. You can put it in presentation mode.
Yes. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to make this short presentation about the results of the multiple case study that we performed on the supply chain for sustainability in the Reshape project. So starting, as Rosanna already explained, from the identification of the mega trends and the trends that are impacting the current supply chains, we were able to make a pestle analysis, so analyzing the political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental dimensions that related trends, and also the related risk that companies has to face and that derive from these mega trends. We were able also to classify the identified risk according to the economic, social, and environmental dimension of sustainability, and to assess the impact on supply chain of these risks. So here an example of how we identified the risk categories. For example, starting from the social dimension and the demographic change megatrend, we analyzed all the trend-specific risk for all the trends belonging to this megatrend. Then we clustered in different supply chain risk categories according to the similarities and the topics. So here, for example, we were able to identify one category that is the lack of skill and few training opportunities that is really affecting the supply chains in these last years. Here we can summarize some examples of risk for each dimension. For example, for the social dimension, the most recurring risk that impacts in particular the social sustainability is knowledge loss and the lack of training and skill gap. This is a very relevant risk and is due to the new technologies, to the digitalization. Also, social sustainability is also affected by the poor working conditions, by workers' rights, and the unemployment. If we give a look to the political dimension, we can say that to all megatrends, all megatrends of this dimension share the poor attention to environment. So this seems to be a relevant issue. And for the economic dimension, considering the digital economy, security is one of the most pressing risks, and in particular, data sharing that is required for many digital applications highlights the lack of integration and collaboration among the stakeholders of the supply chain. So this is a relevant issue that is also associated to the rapid evolution of the digitalization challenges that press companies to adapt quickly. And so this is a problem for the competitors. We are less agile in the adoption of the new digital technologies. If we consider the environmental dimension, we can say that the future resource availability poses a really significant risk for disruptions, and also that another interesting highlight that we were able to summarize is the fact that given the pace of advancement in the technological landscape, there is the risk of investing in unsuitable emerging technologies. So it's also important to make the right choice. And considering technological dimension, this is also linked with the fact that when poorly managed, the technologies can further increase complexity and also lead to poor decision making. So it's important to invest in the right technologies and to properly use it. Otherwise, the risk can be very high compared to the benefits that companies can have from these applications. Another risk is that technological risk is to remember to put the human factor at the center of the company strategy, and also to have an infrastructure and to consider security at the right place. Legal dimension is affected by the costs that are associated with implementing the new regulation and laws concerning both social and environmental issues. And the risk is in terms both of financial penalties and reputational damage with customers. So companies have a really high risk from this side. Passing to the objective of the case study analysis, our goal was to identify innovative models to organize supply chains for resilience and sustainability. And the basis for this analysis was a new transformative perspective for resilience, which moves companies towards a new normality after disruption. In particular, our research question was how can supply chain transform their processes to build supply chain resilience and sustainability through 3 dimensions. We consider in particular 3 dimensions that are further discussed in this framework, that are collaboration, which is recognized as one of the most important capabilities to build resilience and also a structural aspect of sustainability. Technological innovation, which because transformation is enabled by the innovative use of technologies. In particular, the digital technologies can help companies to support and to enhance processes. And learning, because knowledge management for what concerns resilience is related to the increasing skill and competencies at ecosystem level. So through the transformation, implementing specific actions, supply chain can transform their processes. And this transformative resilience is characterized also by 2 factors. One is the longer-term impact of the action and the business goal of the action that should be quite relevant and ambitious, so to have an impact of a certain importance. So the methodology was a multiple case study, and according to this perspective, we identified a set of companies from different interests in Europe. And to understand which are the most important actions and the dimensions that are leveraged towards sustainability and resilience, we performed in-depth interviews with managers, so supply chain managers, CEO, innovation managers, and also analyzed data, in particular sustainability reports, company websites, and so on. The focus was on action towards sustainability, social and environmental sustainability. And the 3 dimensions, as I already mentioned, were collaboration, technological innovation, and knowledge management. We focused on companies in EU, and in particular companies belonging to the industrial ecosystem identified by the European Commission. And we selected companies from the textile, the retail, the mobility, transport, automotive, and the energy-intensive industry from 4 countries: Germany, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And the most important aspect that these companies should be committed on sustainability through a sustainability strategy already in place, which implies to have a sustainability report and also to have environmental and social certifications. Here we have a summary of the 18 case studies from the EU companies from the 4 sectors. And here we have a mapping of the actions identified. The actions are mapped according to the 3 dimensions, but in particular according to the openness of the supply chain, which means how is enlarged this supply chain. In particular, it can involve the first-tier suppliers, the industrial ecosystem, which means also 2nd and 3rd-tier suppliers, such as competitors, service providers, and the enlarged ecosystem, which is the higher degree of openness of the supply chain, which means to involve stakeholders such as municipalities, non-governative organizations, consumers, and also citizens. We can make some brief examples of actions that are focused on facing specific risk. We have an action that was adopted by a company in the textile sector about preserving craftsmanship skills. This was related to Made in Italy. This is very important for companies in the textile. And this was important to prevent from the risk of knowledge loss and the lack of training and skill gap. Also in the textile, another action that for facing social risks such as the poor working conditions, unemployment, and workers' right was about training and wealth initiative for African workers. And in the same sector, we identified also actions that concerns alliances with competitors that have been realized to push the ecosystem compliance to environmental standards. So in this case, the ecosystem is composed also by competitors that put together to force the compliance of standard of the ecosystem. And the actions are also distinguished by the specific ecosystem to which the company belongs. And in particular, we were able to highlight how collaboration is the dimension that is most leveraged in the textile ecosystem, while technology-driven actions are more relevant in the energy-intensive, but also in the automotive and the transport ecosystem. Here we have some other examples of actions and specific risk. In the steel sector, we identified the action of heat recovery, so the heat produced during the manufacturing process that can be used by companies for energy purposes, but also to supply energy to the local municipality. So in this case, we have the enlarged ecosystem, the higher level of openness that I have mentioned before, and with also a social objective that is to provide also to municipality a new way to supply energy. In the textile, for what concerns in particular waste increase, so we are most on the environmental side. We have an example of the creation of a network of repairing services, a certified network for the end of life of products and to face the waste increase. And also the eco design is another action that has been applied by different industry in this sector, in particular concerning the development of innovative material and the adoption of recycled materials that are also co-developed with suppliers through specific agreement and also exclusive agreement. And this is important to face the risk of future availability of resources and also of reducing the waste increase. So the mapping can highlight the transformative path that aim to enlarge the openness of the supply chain and to identify transformative actions that in most cases are peculiar to the ecosystem. And here we have a mapping according to the capability that are leveraged, the three capabilities, and the openness of the supply chain. We have also proposed a framework that highlights how supply chain can transform their processes to build a supply chain resilience and sustainability through the three dimensions, and increasing the supply chain performance in terms of environmental sustainability, social sustainability, but also economic sustainability. And the final goal is to increase the resilience of the whole supply chain. Some highlights and conclusion. First of all, these actions can be, because as I told you before, the aim was to identify some models, some new strategies, and these actions can be combined by managers to build ad hoc strategies for their supply chains in order to, according to specific goal and to the peculiar context where the supply chain operates. So with a by design approach, embracing risk management in a transformative path is possible to build ad hoc strategies for the supply chain. The openness of the reference supply chain emerged as a key element when implementing transformative action for supply chain. And this is due to the increasing importance to a large number of actors going beyond the traditional boundaries of the supply chain and involving stakeholders from the enlarged ecosystem, such as municipalities, consumer associations, citizens, non-governmental organizations. So the transformation passes across the enlarged ecosystem and the openness of the supply chain. The transformative approach is based on structural actions that aim at achieving a long-term sustainability. So the long-term impact is important for this transformative approach. And the transformative actions mainly involved going towards a more open supply chain, involves second and third tier suppliers. In fact, there are a lot of practices that are related to supplier development, and this is also the topic that is faced by the next presentation. So for me, it's all.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andrea. So this is a good bridge to the second presentation, where we have Alp from Aston University that will present us strategies, how companies are implementing supplier development strategies in some countries in Europe. So Alp, the floor is yours. If you want to share the screen.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm now sharing the screen. So are you able to see the screen? Yeah,
yes.
That's all good. Okay. Yeah, as a follow-up presentation, I will be talking about how to develop lower tier suppliers for social sustainability. So maybe you might also have noticed that we are seeing a lot of news that are about huge companies, supply chains, about social breaches and all that. So this research therefore focuses on the impacts of COVID-19 and other similar disruptions, wars, natural disasters, all of that, because they caused many unforeseen social issues. However, industries often prioritized addressing financial challenges at the expense of these sustainability efforts. And also new social requirements have emerged. So people want to work remotely right now. They want work-life balance. So we should redefine what social sustainability is to reflect the new normal now. So governments implemented new policy requirements and regulations such as due diligence acts to improve social sustainability of supply chains. And therefore, European companies must also comply with these new regulations and also improve their lower tier supplier social sustainability, because they are now responsible for their lower tier suppliers as well. And those manufacturing companies or buyer companies can address these concepts and improve their suppliers through supplier development. So this is what we are focusing our research on. So post-COVID, let's first mention social sustainability. Post-COVID, new constructs have emerged in measuring social sustainability performance, and we come up with 4 different categories to redefine the social sustainability through a literature review. So the first category is diversity and inclusion. The second one is local community. The third one is worker rights, and the fourth one is customers. And also, in the previous slides, we mentioned about supplier development. So we seek how companies develop their lower tier suppliers. And we again find 4 different categories. The first one would be incentives. The other one is monitoring and evaluation. knowledge sharing, and finally, collaboration. And under these categories, we have 13 different supplier development actions. So after we had found out all these, the actions that buyer companies implement, the main question for us was how they are implementing these actions. And eventually we have noticed that they are using 3 different strategies to implement these supplier development actions for their lower tiers. So the first one is they directly control these actions, these supplier development actions. The second strategy is they kind of delegate their first-tier suppliers to impose those actions to their lower-tier suppliers. And they also use, as another option, third-party organizations such as NGOs or industry associations to impose those supplier development actions to their lower tiers. So including the strategies, we came up with this overall framework for lower tier supplier development. So there are the strategies to choose from here, leading to different supplier development actions and eventually resulting with an increased social sustainability performance that is defined under 4 categories as we mentioned. Then, according to that framework, we have prepared a questionnaire and sent the questionnaire to procurement, sustainability, or supply chain managers that are working in those 5 European countries that are kind of the main manufacturing companies in where manufacturing companies based in Europe. And we had 108 respondents as a result. So let's find out what they have said or what they have chosen in that questionnaire. So the first thing is we had 3 different strategies as we mentioned, and when we see the countries here, it is revealed that the most implemented supplier development strategies are direct control and first-tier supplier delegation compared to third parties, third-party organizations. So in fact, seeing companies mostly prefer a direct control approach is a little bit unexpected for us because we are talking about lower tier supplier development here. So they say that in general, they are dealing with lower tier suppliers mostly by themselves. So let's delve into how they have performed their actions, supplier development actions within those strategies. So we see that for direct control, 86% of respondents, for example, in all European countries, implement due diligence processes to ensure their lower tier suppliers comply with the standards. And similar to that, so these are high percentages, and we find these percentages by adding strongly agree option and agree option together. So we also see 80% of these respondents assess their lower tier suppliers' social performance through formal evaluation criteria. And for knowledge sharing category, they say 78% prefer sharing knowledge and information about social sustainability requirements or developments affecting lower tier suppliers. So this is the highest preferred action, let's say. And for collaboration, we see that there is a similar result between jointly identifying social sustainability issues and involving suppliers in product development. And one thing to notice is that if you remember, we had 4 categories for supplier development actions. So we see direct control strategies does not have incentives category. It could be due to the effort needed for directly incentivizing the lower tier suppliers because they might have preferred delegating that to their first tier suppliers, as we see in here. So we have that incentives category here. So first tier suppliers, we see that the buyer companies ask their first tier suppliers to increase the volume of orders they order from their lower tier suppliers based on improved social sustainability performance. And they also offer long-term contracts as a result of these improvements. For monitoring and evaluation, the preferred actions are assessing and providing feedback on lower tier suppliers' performance. And also for knowledge sharing, managers visit their lower tier supplier facilities. The first tier suppliers managers are visiting the lower tier suppliers facilities, and they conduct training and education programs there. And for collaboration between first tier and lower tier suppliers, we see they also use that approach, these actions, for example, jointly identifying the social sustainability issues. So first tier suppliers and lower tier suppliers getting together to identify these issues. And for the third strategy, so third party strategy is not that preferred as we mentioned before, and they do secure financial support as primary focus in incentives, and third party organizations, the direct control, so the manufacturing companies expect third party organizations to engage in activities such as jointly identifying the social sustainability issues again, or carrying out the due diligence actions. So we see many NGOs out there conducting the due diligence process for the focal company itself. So let's talk about all the actions here. As we see, the main preferred actions are conducting due diligence. So regardless of the strategy I'm talking about, conducting due diligence, communicating social sustainability requirements, and assessing lower tier suppliers and providing them feedback. So these are the most preferred actions as we noticed. And we also noticed another thing, that is the third party related actions. They are all listed at the bottom of the list. So they are not preferred at all. So we don't see any third party related action being preferred by those manufacturing companies in Europe. So it is perceived by the respondents that those supplier development actions have the highest impact on customers and discrimination dimensions. Like they perceive that they are able to improve their lower tier supplier social sustainability performance in those categories the most. And on the right hand side, you see the distribution of those constructs, each category. For example, companies perceive that their supplier development efforts lead their lower tier suppliers to prioritize local sub-suppliers compared to hiring specifically unemployed youth. So prioritizing local suppliers is working better with those supplier development actions they undertake. So when we look at the sectors specifically, we see some sectors such as tobacco products, textile mill products, petroleum and coal products. So they, and energy, they constantly perform above average. And on the other hand, of course, a weak perceived social sustainability performance in some sectors, such as electronic and other electronic equipment, rubber and miscellaneous products, chemicals and allied products, food and kindred products, has been noticed. So as you see, they have low performance, low perceived social sustainability performance compared to the other sectors. So what are the insights of this study? Let's mention a little bit about that. So direct control and first tier supplier strategies are preferred for supplier development currently, with a mix of activities. We cannot say they prefer some categories over other categories. They use a mixture. And third-party strategy is unfortunately still least preferred, perhaps due to its complexity currently, and external information sharing. Of course, data privacy matters. However, we are expecting an increased usage of third-party strategy, especially for upstream governance. And also companies like, so yeah, this is one thing that we came up in this research. We have noticed that companies like awareness of their lower tier suppliers meeting social sustainability requirements, meaning that they don't really know if their existing supply chain is on track to meet the procurement conditions they are asking. So on the other hand, developing them and knowing if they are capable of meeting the social sustainability requirements, have clear financial benefits, because products with ESG related claims, they sell 8% more. That is being mentioned in another research. And also, the results of this research allow organizations to identify, like the managers, the procurement managers, sustainability managers, to identify and explore effective supply development actions. So that research, the outcome of this research, can be helpful in managers in that way. And also the model that we presented, the framework we presented in this research, can be a guidance for managers to decide what strategies to consider and how the actions below those strategies could impact different social sustainability dimensions. And for policymakers, we believe that new regulations could be offered to incentivize companies towards underused strategies, such as the one third-party organizations developing lower-tier supplier social sustainability we mentioned. And also, new policies and regulations could definitely support to improve the social sustainability performance of lower-tier suppliers, particularly the rather weak sectors, such as electronic and other electric equipment and rubber and miscellaneous products. So that's all from my end, from this research. And I also prepared 2 discussion questions if our participants would like to respond to. So I can read them out loud. So the first question would be, how can a buyer company improve its capability to reach lower tier suppliers for supplier development? So what are your thoughts on that? And the second one would be, what are the main actions to be implemented to develop them? So if you are maybe as a company implementing these actions, which actions do you prefer? So it would be great to have this discussion together.
Okay, thank you very much, Alpha. Thank you for your presentation. So yes, people participating, they can raise their hand or they can write in the chat if they have some comments or questions, or if they want to give their opinion on these 2 suggestions given by Alpha. So let me say from my side, that the findings that you have are very much in line with the findings of the previous study, with the multiple case study, where one important dimension for ours for the previous study was related to how to enlarge, how to go beyond the supply chain borders, in order to change the way supply chain is organized, to change the way supply chain is managed. And your approach is very much, yes, how can I say, complementary, because
Yes.
you are going to look to study the interaction with NGO, the interaction with other actors that are outside the supply chain, but they can support the development of the supply chain. So this can be a good way to again to reinforce this important finding, that it's necessary more and more to have a broader approach, to have an approach where we aim to include, to have collaboration with other actors that are usually considered as separate, let's say, separate actors. They are considered as stakeholders, but where collaboration was not so strong. So yes, so this is a first comment that I wanted to do.
Yes, and also in relation with the the presentation that I already performed. Probably the capability to improve this capability is very important to leverage on collaboration. That maybe is one of the most important dimension in order to cooperate and to find a way to develop the supplier capability to adhere to sustainability issues. So to find new ways to collaborate. Then also technology is important, because if we have a technological integration, it's easier to monitor and to assess how supplier perform. But maybe collaboration can be seen one of the a key factor to try to enhance this capability.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Because so we, as we all notice, so now the lower tier suppliers are from emerging countries, developing countries. So that's a combination of this now. So they are distributed globally. So we have to find ways to cooperate with them, because now the companies, the buyer companies, are responsible for them as well. So they have to develop all together as a single unit, let's say.
Yes. Yes. Can you also specify, Alpa, if you also check the role of technologies with your research? Was it possible to investigate if technology is used in enhancing this collaboration, or?
Yes, it is definitely being used, but that wasn't the focus of this research.
Okay.
But also, that's another point, maybe, because working with third-party organizations, that requires a technological integration for sure. And also there is the IT safety maybe issue, maybe technological privacy safety issue. So since we see that third-party organization strategy is the least preferred, we might conclude that we have a way to go to integrate the third-party organizations and the technology within the supply chain. So we have a way to develop it further, so that we see more third-party collaborations in our supply chain, because we need it. So you cannot go to an emerging country by yourself and check the lower tier suppliers if they are performing, if they are not using child labor, for example.
Yes.
It is much more easier for a maybe local NGO doing that. But that requires a technological integration, that requires a high level of collaboration and all these. But yeah, this is the first step, let's say, towards that research. So that's an ideal in ideal world. We would like to see how they are approaching to third-party organizations and what's the role of technology in that integration. But it wasn't the focus of this research.
Yes. Okay. Any other suggestion or any other comment from the others? Something to integrate, or some opinion, or how to improve the capability to make supplier development? No, it's mainly a matter of regulation. Is it a matter of controlling, of collaborating? So these are some open points that we are still investigating.
Don't know what can I say one just?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm just maybe it could be one options. From my own experience, I saw that a lot of the certifications agency, not the NGO or any other organization, but a lot of certification organizations, for example, for the textile lead, or lead is one where you can find whether the lower tier suppliers has a good practices for improving their capability. Yeah, so the certification authority could be one options to improve the capability of the lower tier suppliers, sustainable issues. For example, human rights, the child labor, or whether they are doing something environmentally good or not. So these certification organizations could be one options. And also I know there are a lot of the buyer company or from the Western countries, they consider this certification organizational the status is one criteria for their sustainability practices of supplier part.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Thank you for your comment, Avlat. So this is what we also see. So apart from NGOs, there are those industry associations, and some of them are actually built by, let's say, the main manufacturing companies or main buyer companies involved in that sector, right? So they are, they do build that organization and then say that, okay, here, just identify what are the requirements for our supply chain in terms of being socially sustainable, and then these organizations provide certifications for those lower tier suppliers. That's one thing we also noticed. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for your comment.
Okay. So I think we can close here with your presentation, and we can go to the next presentation. So it's 𝘀𝘂𝘰𝗶𝗹 from IML, from OFER. So if you want to share the screen, Marcus.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I will do so. I hope you're doing fine and you can see my screen.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I will elaborate a bit on social sustainability and corporate social responsibility that directly relates to the topic we have just been discussing in terms of child labor. And so it's based on 𝘀𝘂𝗰𝗶𝗹 research, but also based on research and consultancy we are doing here in Germany, funded by the German government to support companies. So that's this 𝙛𝙖𝙨𝙚𝙚𝙤𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀. So social, environmental, and climate-related obligations for companies, they are increasing. So we have many laws being discussed, and so the corporate sustainability due diligence law, 𝐶𝑠DDD, has come into force. In Germany, we had the 𝙗𝙬𝙗𝗶𝗶𝗯𝗶. So that's the German legislation on corporate social responsibility, and that shows. It was a long discussion about in Europe what should be done there, and when it was just about to go through the parliaments, and European parliaments, everybody woke up here in Germany and said, "Ooh, we need to change this." Quite funny, because that discussion process was open for years before. Yeah, where does it come from? It's simply coming from the 17 Social Development Goals of the United Nations. So that has been posted, I think, 15 years. So we don't want to have poverty. We don't want to have slavery, child labor, and pollution, and so on. So these are global goals that then were taken over by policymakers, and they made laws, regulations, consumers. So I don't want to wear textiles that have been produced in countries with hazardous labor conditions, and even investors. So if you as a company can show that you have a good ESG rating, it's easier for you to get money. And this impacts the management of supply chains in respect to sustainability. So that is the context. And in the last 15 years, we had many guidelines, agendas, national laws. You see here a timeline of some of these in different European countries. And so it started with the United Nations. Then we had the OECD guidelines for large enterprises, the corporate social responsibility direction, and so on. So it was focused in the beginning on large companies, big corporations, but it has become more and more relevant for all companies in European supply chains. And if we look closer, we can find three main areas that are regulated with these policies. One is climate related, of course. So these climate gases regulations. One is related to human rights. It's not only based on slavery and the United Nations guiding principles on human rights, but also it's coming from organizations such as the International Labour Organization and their standards. And then we have environmental related topics on pollution, but also on working conditions. So, and you see here a map with a few laws, regulations, and standards. It's by far not complete, and there will be more and more policies, regulations popping up in that map. And I just pick here the German Supply Chain Act, the Lieferkettengesetz, 𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, as an example, because that has come into force, and yeah, we have some experience to report on that. So why do we have such a law? In the beginning, it was simply an objective, and Germany tried for companies to be better in terms of human rights in their supply chain, not the situation here in Germany. And environmental risks in the supply chain. There was a target of 50% of companies that should somehow implement due diligence on a voluntary basis, but that could not be achieved. They tried for years, and then there was the political agreement, okay, and now we need to have a law, because everybody said, yeah, I would like to, but I don't know if my competitor is doing the same, and I can't, and that's why I won't. So, and that law that was put into force last year for big companies and is now for medium size or for companies with more than 1,000 employees in force, is about human rights and supply chains and environmental concerns, so water pollution. So it's not about climate. There's no climate issue in the German Supply Chain Act. And it applies to companies with more than 1,000 employees, regardless of their legal form, and companies in Germany. So it could be a subsidiary of an international corporation that's operating in Germany. They have their main branch, head office, and so on, and they must comply. What do they need to do is to be compliant with the Supply Chain Act. So I will briefly later on talk a bit about the affected companies. That law, that act, describes the due diligence of companies in terms of supply chains, and they have to do a declaration of principles. So if you're looking at large German corporations and you search there for Lieferkettengesetz Grundsatzerklärung, you will find that. You have to find that. They have to do some kind of risk management. So I'm a company and I'm producing metals, and I'm sourcing metals from nickel and cobalt from certain areas, critical material. There's a high risk that my supply chain is not doing well in terms of pollution and worker security. So I have to check that. And I have to do an initial risk analysis, and I have to implement countermeasurements if something has been found out, and I have to act accordingly. So that's something that you have to put into place. Then it could be that you have complaints coming from NGOs or from workers of suppliers, and you must manage these complaints. Some companies hire therefore additional lawyers where you can go and make your report. And finally, once a year, you have to do the documentation and reporting. That will happen the first time by the end of this year. And we will find out next year what is the results there. So there's an agency, BAFA in Germany, that's responsible for collecting all these reports and checking this. And they can impose sanctions if they find out, okay, there's a violation of the Supply Chain Act, and that could be quite harsh. And that documentation and reporting is monitored by the Federal Office for Economic Affairs and Export Controls. So that was more on customs and tariffs, but it's taking over now that Supply Chain Act issues. You have to publish a report. There's everything. It's a national law. Everything is in German. But many of the standards that are referred to are international standards. So you have information in English there as well. And we will see by the end of this year this report coming up from German companies. And this is an opportunity for journalists, for NGOs, for consumers to check out, okay, how is Siemens doing? What is Nestle doing in Germany? What are the big retail companies doing there? And there are some minimal content requirements, which risks have been identified, which violations have occurred. What were the measurements taken against this? Did they work? And what are the next steps there? So this is real. This is going on with many companies, and they woke up. Some started earlier, especially the big corporations, but the smaller ones, they are quite surprised about that and find out this exercise is nothing you can do with your sourcing department and say, okay, let's do a small project a week and we are done. It's more effort, especially to implement this in the first place. And if you don't comply, you have possible sanctions. My personal opinion is, okay, this is the big stick. it's for the time being, it's there for show, but maybe it will, in a few years, it will come into force. So if companies are not compliant, they can be excluded from the award of public contracts. That could be a big deal. Fines of 50,000 euros, or fines up to 8 million or up to 2% of annual global turnover could be assigned as well. That seems to be more or less the same figures as we have with the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations. But this is for the big companies. And because that's so important, what's happening right now is that many of these companies go to their suppliers and say, okay, now you have to prove something. And so if you find out as a company that a supplier is doing child labor, you have to do something against this. If this supplier is not changing everything, then in the end you have to terminate. So it's you still have some time to implement countermeasures. And so if we are looking at the fines imposed as of March 2024, that's the latest figures from the BAFA. There you can find out that no fines have been implemented so far, but there are some inspections. So here in Germany, for instance, we had a big strike of truck drivers in East Germany at a parking lot last year. Many of these drivers came from Eastern Europe, and they weren't paid. And they were on strike and said, oh, we have been working there, poor working conditions and so on. And BAFA is now investigating against the logistics service providers that hired these truck drivers. We will see what's coming out of this. And yeah, we will have a first report by the beginning of next year on that. So that's a short highlight on what's going on here in Germany with the German Supply Chain Act. If we are looking at the European Supply Chain Act, that's going even a step further. It's not only the direct suppliers, but the sub-suppliers as well. So you are responsible for your whole supply chain. Yeah, but it's tricky. So I've been in contact with some companies that are not big, but suppliers of the big corporations. They said, okay, I received an EcoVadis questionnaire from my customer X and an Integrity Next questionnaire from my customer Y, and I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do there. So I think this needs some more time to make it less bureaucratic. And my personal opinion is we could benefit if we would have some kind of certification standards. So certification authorities or whatsoever. Right now, a few service providers like Integrity Next or EcoVadis, these are the biggest one, are marketing this quite successfully, and there are other service providers for risk management. It's somehow a bit a Wild West situation in terms of support on that. Yeah, okay, so that's it about the Supply Chain Act. That's one topic in that area. As mentioned before by Rosanna and Alp and Alberto, We are part of the 𝘀𝑀𝗶𝗹 project. We are not only looking into this corporate social responsibility issues. Oh, it's also a matter of artificial intelligence or the digitization in general, climate-related topics, and so on. So these key horizontal issues are important for our project, and we want to give policy recommendations or recommendation for policies to the European Union. We want to investigate in terms of strategies as well. So we did a lot of research there, compiled a lot of information, and we are just about to start further consultations with externals outside the project. So just a reminder, there we are seeking for experts to discuss this topic, and we will I have a questionnaire also available. Okay, so that's this questionnaire. Concluding remarks, then we can come to the discussion. These regulations will not go away. They will stay, and they will have a growing impact on European supply chains. Me personally, I'm a bit older. I was born in the 60s. This reminds me a bit of the situation in the 90s in Germany, when new laws were introduced that prohibited German companies to bribe foreign countries for selling their goods. And they tried to ignore it. And after some times, there were big fines against German companies. And now it's totally not okay to bribe customers. Well, and I think this will be the same. SMEs and even European companies will be affected by this German law, because everybody here, every German company will go through their suppliers and say, you need to fill out that questionnaire whatsoever. And my personal wish would be to have a European solution. Supply chains are not German. There's no German car industry. It's at least a European car industry. So we have a integrated supply chain in many business sectors. There are some software providers on the market. Pre-Wave would be another one to mention here. Companies complain it's too bureaucratic. We have to work on that. And especially smaller companies suffer because there's no one way of doing things, different ways. Each customer is asking the same question, but in a different manner to be collected. We need to have Europe-wide standards. So that's my opinion there. And now I would like to move over and get some input from the others. So what are your experience and your opinion on these national or European regulations on social sustainability and CSR? So experience, opinions, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcos, for the presentation. So it's very interesting to see how Germany is preparing the big companies in monitoring their processes, and in trying to be compliant with the social sustainability, not only at company level but also to supplier level. Let me start with a question for you. Is the law, this regulation for suppliers from any country? So a German company can should provide information about their suppliers, first-year suppliers, wherever they are. Is it correct?
Each German company is responsible for its whole supply chain worldwide.
Okay.
So if I would be an owner of a textile company and textiles are produced in Bangladesh and countries alike, and I'm large enough, I have to make a risk analysis, and I have to make a report. And if there are some complaints, somebody saying, okay, you are sourcing here from this sweatshop, you have to do something against this. I have to do something against this.
Yes.
I have some time. I can go to the supplier and say, okay, please change that. But I can't ignore it. And if after some time the supplier is not reacting, I have to do something. I have to change the situation. I can't.
Yes.
Okay. I have to do something.
Okay. So, and here all the issue about the also supplier development strategies, no, they are very much important as we were seeing in the previous presentation. So to support supplier development in order to help them, because I guess that some, especially SMEs or suppliers in developing countries, especially if they are good partners, no? If there is a partnership with them, companies need to find a way to be to implement a supplier development strategies.
Yeah, I think that's happening. So that as a German company, I have to define measurements. So avoidance measurements, or it could be some kind of training or inspection, but also some contingency planning. What if there was some kind of pollution accident, or there was a security accident in one of my suppliers' plant? I have to do something. It could be that I do it by myself, or I said, okay, no, I'm not fluent in Bengali. I'm searching for local partners that help. That could be a fitting measurement. So the law is quite open for interpretation. They say, okay, you have to find measurements that are reasonable. It's not very prescriptive how to do that, but you. And if BAFA, for instance, is assigning a fine, you can go to court. So that will happen. If I'm quite sure that will happen when the fines are first awarded. We will see in a few years. So it's a bit early, but I don't think that this topic will go away, and it will have a ripple effect. And if you're looking in certain sectors, automotive industry, mechanical engineering, and so you have so many companies. Textile I mentioned, it's and retail, food sector, food and beverage. You have other regulations, deforestation regulations, and so on. So it's gaining momentum.
Yeah. Yes. So
just a comment. Sorry, Rosanna. So
please.
Yes, thank you, Marcus, for the presentation, for the explanation. So we are now performing a cross-country analysis on policies related to supply chain management. But actually, besides Germany, we we actually found out that countries don't have policies or regulations on supply chain management. That means that most countries will start from zero with the European Commission Act. So it will have a huge impact. Of course, we expect a positive impact because it's something that's needed. It's very, very important. But also there is a concern on the feasibility of implementing some of the requirements. I'd like to know your opinions based on the German experience, because as Rosanna asked, so the companies in Europe have to engage somehow or have to share information with more than before with the partners, even if they are outside Europe. So it seems to be a challenge to make them share information that they don't share now, and to be engaged in this kind of eventually in some process and improving some things. And the question is, do you have an idea on the costs or if this can have eventually some companies in Europe, do you think can risk losing a little bit of competitiveness as they will ask something different, or they will increase some bureaucracy, or they will ask for something that other companies don't, other companies in other regions don't need to ask. So from your experience in German, how is, I know.
Okay, there were many questions. Let me start with the first one, with that situation, and I think it's a cultural issue. So Germany, they love to regulate. So Ordnung ist alles. So we have quite a long tradition on social regulation. So the first health insurance in Germany was introduced in the late 1900s, and pension and work safety and so. This is important for the German society. And so you have a buy-in not only from the German voters, but also from many political parties. So you easily get a support there. And even companies say, okay, no, we need to protect our workers. We want to have fair working conditions. So that's important. The topic of, if I'm doing this, but my competitor is not doing this, I will be out of the market, is somehow solved with the law. Now everybody has to do it. And it's easier for business sectors that have local customers. So if you are in the fashion sector and so in the retail sector, if you are food and beverage and so on, that doesn't have an impact if you are not compliant there. So on the other, if you are not complying, it would have a negative impact because it's image. So people are shooting against big food and beverage companies, for instance, about the situation with cocoa and so on. That's something to be taken into account. And then we have a European perspective. This situation reminds me a bit about the discussion 10 years ago with the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. But this goes far further. So how did that GDPR came into place? It came into place because us Germans, we are obsessed with data privacy. You might say. So that's important because of historical reasons. And so Datenschutz, data protection is really important. And that discussion was brought into a European context. And now you can go on any website and they will ask you, is it okay if I collect information on you? This is cookies and so on. And this shows me that Europe, the European Union, has quite an impact worldwide. And that will happen with this CSR topic as well. And I'm not so, I don't think that this will be negative in terms of competitiveness of European supply chains. And because all companies are so much connected, so I don't think that can be solved nationally. It could be addressed on a European level. I hope that answers all your questions.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I have another question.
Please. For us. You have another question for us.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not only a researcher, but I'm also, as Fraunhofer, a business consultant. And so this goes more into people that have to live with the regulations. I would be interested in your opinion on that. So on that topic. So imagine I'm the very good mother, die gute Fee and La Fee Marianne, and so on. You see the different translations there. If you would have one wish in respect to social sustainability and corporate social responsibility, what wish would that be?
It's a difficult question. There are, from my side, there are several wishes because at least in Italy, time by time, there are news about companies violating social rights. Also big company, also big names. There are some big names that now are in trouble because so from clothing, textile, we have recently we have had an example from Dior. Then there was another big name that it turned out that they were violating the social rights both in Italy and in developing countries. The matter is that how do they justify? They say, okay, in Italy we have a lot of immigrants, and they say it's them that they want to work more than 8 hours, that they want to work also in bad condition because first they want a job. And then they don't matter how many hours they have to work. So this is a justification that they give, no? So it's really awful. It's really a situation where it's getting out of control. Instead of improving, it's getting out of control because you can say, okay, it's a made in Italy product, okay, but then you go to see that some of the suppliers in Italy, they are Chinese or they are immigrants, and they are working in the same condition as they were working if they were in their own countries. So, my dear fairy godmother, please find a way to solve this problem because it's really crazy. And we are talking about companies that they are not doing fast fashion and that they are working only with cost efficiency. No, we are talking about companies that can sell products also no, one sweater, 1,000 euros, no, or something like this, few hundred thousand euros. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. I think, Avlat, you're looking as you would like to say something.
No, not really, not really. I'm
Not
just,
really. Okay.
no. I'm already the Rosanna said these things. Yeah, but I can. I just wondering. I'm not the good mothers. The good mothers like what. But it's true. It varies from the case to case. We see only the front side of the coin, but we don't see, most of the times we don't see the back side of what is the back office is doing on. So, and by literature, I can say a lot of things. Okay, this is social sustainability, human rights. The honestly speaking is just some sort of buzzword that we are using and all the times. But if you think the real scenario, it could be the very worst for the people. Already, Rosanna said that okay, the migrated people wants to work more than 8 hours, more than 16 hours. It doesn't matter about the Labor Act or human rights. They need good job or something like this. So we cannot standardize this in a simple way. And also, the one thing I can remember, a few years ago, there was a big scandal in the European food supply chain. So it's not about the human rights; it's about the mental stress, how the scandal about the horse meat and the cow meat. So it's a lot of problems, a lot of issues related to this. Yeah, in supply chain. I think so. Yeah.
I think we have to distinguish the different business sectors. So, so if we are talking about manufacturing, many of these suppliers are in highly developed countries or developing countries. It's not that big issues, but if we are talking about food sector, it's difficult. And maybe a law, no, not maybe, a law alone will not improve that situation.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for your presentations. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you for your contributions. I think later on we will distribute these slides as well. If you can read German or if you use some kind of translation service, you will find here a longer guideline on the Lieferkettengesetz. So it's something like 50 pages, if you are interested.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Marcus.
Thank you
very much. So thank you all for participating to the discussion. So it was an interesting thread that we have tried to give you, where we started from some general actions, some actions related to supplier development, and then we went to law regulation and policy making in order to improve social sustainability. So I thank the speakers, I thank you all participants, and we keep on contact for the next webinar. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.